Anger, anger, anger. Anger in the office, and why aggression doesn't belong at the water cooler. You gotta remember, all of our emotions are nothing more than signals, and anger is no different. But you know what? Anger can be healthy. But what is healthy about anger, you say? And the answer to that is the expression of it, how it's actually expressed. And self-control plays a strong part.
Voices of Victory podcast show. Voices of Victory podcast show.
It is now time for the Voices of Victory podcast show.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mario Di Leone.
So welcome to Voices of Victory podcast. My name is Mario Di Leone, and today's episode is why aggression doesn't belong at the water cooler. So guess what? If your workplace feels like an episode of Survivor, you're going to want to wake up to this and listen. You might want to start voting some bad behavior off the damn island. That's what it's all about, and that's how I'm putting it down today. So welcome to my show, podcast that tackles life's messy moments in the office with a dash of humor and a big heaping pile of practical advice. I'm your host, the guy who knows that while work isn't always sunshine and team building exercises, well, guess what? It definitely shouldn't feel like you're a gladiator in the arena when you're at work. Today, we're talking about aggression in the workplace, and why it happens, how it actually manifests, and most importantly, how do you prevent it? Let's get into it. What's driving the big office aggressor? Let's really break it down. You ever notice that the workplace aggressor is often the loudest person in the room, or worse, the sneakiest, or the most hypercritical, hyperjudgmental? And these are people who treat the office like a soap opera, where they're the star villain. They'll slam the desk drawer like it owes them money, or deliver a passive-aggressive comment to a fellow coworker, and send out those emails while slamming on the keys with a lot more subtext than a Shakespeare play. So what's their deal? Well, it usually boils down to a few things. Low self-worth. They see their reflection in the monitor and think, wow, even the screen is doing better than me. It can also connect to poor mental health, stress, anxiety, unresolved issues, and they can turn this person into a ticking time bomb. It could also be a lack of attention. Basically, they're acting like a grown-up toddler throwing tantrums because nobody told them that they're not special today, right? So jealousy and malice also kick in. They've got a grudge against that one coworker who's getting the good coffee mug out of the dishwasher every single morning. And now, whether it's overt, so there's overt aggression, which is yelling, and then there's covert, which is the gossiping behind your back. And the motive is the same, to create chaos and ruin someone else's day. But it's, at the end, we have to look at their expression, how they're expressing themselves. It's like they're auditioning for the role of the worst person in the office. And unfortunately, maybe they're actually crushing it in that department. Now, can this be channeled? Yes, it can be channeled for the better. Now, this is a very serious thing. Aggression is a serious problem. And I just want to move over to a serious tone for a second. Anger and aggression in the workplace, they aren't just annoying. It's dangerous. It's a slippery slope when you're slamming desks to creating an environment for other people where they don't feel safe. Aggression can lead to that high turnover. Like, who wants to stay in that department anymore? Who wants to stay in that job anymore? You're dodging verbal landmines and you feel like you're walking on eggshells every time you have a conversation with somebody. And you know what? It leads to low morale. The productivity will take a massive nosedive when everyone's too busy walking on eggshells. That's what happened. And let's not sugarcoat escalation. Unchecked aggression can turn into bigger, scarier problems. Workplace violence is real, and it doesn't start overnight. It grows from a culture where anger is ignored. And the punchline has got to meet reality at some point. And honestly, if someone's turning every staff meeting into their own version of the Jerry Springer show, then guess what? It's time to cut to commercials and figure out how to fix this mess and pull this person out into the hallway. Now, there are serious solutions for workplace aggression with practical measures, with a little bit of humor sprinkled in. Well, first of all, behavior screening before hiring. That's a real deal thing. Before you let someone in your office family, or I'll just call it office because a lot of people heap scorn on the word family at work. Give people a behavior test or even a group interview. And if they start glaring at someone over a pencil, maybe this isn't the environment for them. And have clear aggression policies. Put it in writing. Zero tolerance on workplace aggression. It isn't just a good idea, please. It's the safety, and it's a lifeline. And when someone acts out, you got to enforce it. If you let that slide, you're really showing the entire team that you're faltering in that decision. Don't just give them a warning that sounds like, oh, next time we might get serious. No. Lay down the law professionally. We will not tolerate this here. And guess what? Anger management training, there are people that actually bring in trainers for such a thing. Some companies will do that. Let's be real. Some people don't know how to deal with their emotions, and it shows. Offering up those workshop training sessions, they're starting to look pretty good right about now. Think of it as yoga for anger, but with fewer downward dogs and more deep breathing before replying to a particular email. So, communication is important because anger is an expression, and they have to have that ability to have those open communication channel. Create a culture where people feel comfortable speaking up. Even if someone feels like they're targeted, they need to know how they can say, hey, listen, Bob threw a stapler across the room without fear of retaliation. Because honestly, Bob's stapler throwing days need to end. And we have to monitor for covert aggression. Just because someone's aggression is quiet doesn't mean it's harmless. If you got someone spreading office gossip or sending emails that could peel the paint, it's time for a one-on-one. Pull them aside. Say, listen, this isn't a bad episode of like Mean Girls here, okay? This is the corporate edition of Let's Talk. Let's have a conversation. We got to move towards that neutral place and beyond that neutral zone. That's what's better than aggression. What's better than aggression is objectivity and neutrality. It's not about being fake happy or plastering on a crappy smile while your soul is screaming. It's about finding balance. Neutrality is amazing. When you're looking at a coworker who actually annoys you and they're thinking, I'm not going to ruin my day over this, instead of, how can I make them cry before lunch? What does neutrality do? It's simply another word for objectivity. That's what I'm basically trying to say. It doesn't mean you're emotionless. It's just you have to be objective with the situation. You really don't know what all parties are thinking. Being objective is really important. When you're dealing with two people and there's a conflict, right? There's a conflict. When you're objective, you get to see all sides. Because what will happen more often than not is what I call flavoring. I call this flavoring. The first person that runs to you with the complaint will find a way to dramatically flavor the situation in their favor. That's the thing. They flavor the situation in their favor. So they want to do impression management. They want to give the impression that I myself, I'm not at fault for this. And as a leader, if you start taking the very first bias that walks into your office, that's going to flavor your perception. And your objectivity goes downhill quickly. And suddenly you sided with the first person that walked in. That's why people want to be first. When they want to come and tell you something, they want to be first because they need to flavor your perception. That's why they do what they do. But when you're objective as a leader, you look at their side, you look at the other person's side, you look at all sides objectively without your emotions involved. Then at that point, you can see the picture better. And once you see that picture better, it's going to allow you to be more fair. You're going to have a sense of fairness in what you do. That's the overall point. When people rush into your office first, the very first person that rushes in usually wants to flavor the situation in their favor. They want to give off the impression of the situation. So if there's a conflict, whoever walks in first is their attempt to flavor it. Whether they're right or wrong, I'm not going there. We're not discussing that. We're not discussing who's right, who's wrong. We're discussing that the very first person that walks in, their intention is to flavor and paint a picture of the scenario that's in favor of them. But this is why being an objective leader allows you fairness, to be fair. That's what's important. So when you are objective, it can be more collaborative. You can start to see things, see the big picture. Just imagine that. Imagine that working with people instead of against them. So the big takeaway with all this is that at the end of the day, every workplace has its challenges, but aggression doesn't have to be one of them. Think of a healthy workplace. Think of it as that shiny, supportive, and strong enough environment for you. It holds all the good things for you. You're able to bring your best to the table. And if someone's determined to turn that table into a weapon, well, they're going to need a timeout. Because aggression isn't a sign of strength. It's a sign that someone needs to take a deep breath and maybe a long walk around the parking lot. Why not keep the workplace peaceful? Why not keep it productive? And most importantly, free of flying staplers, because it's not a joke when someone actually gets hurt. Now that's it for this episode on Voices of Victory. So if you got a Debbie Downer or a David Downer, in the workplace, or worse of all, an aggressive Andy, please just take what I have to say, bring back your workplace harmony, and if all else fails, just remind them staplers belong on desks, not in midair. Thank you for listening, and please be safe in what you do, be fair, be just, and do what's right to protect all the people at work. Take care.